Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Tell Me More podcast presented by the Real Estate Cheat Code. I have Heather Allbee Byrne with us from the Byrne Group at Keller Williams Classic Properties. Heather, thanks so much for taking your time today to jump on with us and just to share your real estate story, your journey. We were talking a little bit, but I actually didn't tell you the reason why I did this or why I started this is because I'm passionate about helping new agents get into the business. And I always felt that when agents get in the business, they're just told you have to do real estate this way. That's at least how I felt when I got in the business, right? Like, you got to do this, you got to do this. If you want to be successful, you got to do that. And what I found as I've gone through the years of interviewing, top agents in our marketplace here in Columbus, Ohio, is that we have all done this differently. And we all come from different walks of life, and we all come from different career paths. And there's not one secret to success when you're talking about the top performing agents in our marketplace. And so thank you so much for jumping on with us to share your story and your journey of your real estate business.
Absolutely. I appreciate the invitation, and I think what you're doing is awesome.
Well, Heather, we always start on the Tell Me More podcast going way back to the very beginning. Early childhood and life. Where did you grow up? Where are you from? Did you have any interests, hobbies? Kind of what was the life dynamic for you growing up?
So I grew up in Upper Arlington. I was the youngest of four. I was more the jock type girl. I wasn't really the playing with dolls type that a lot of my friends were. So I tended to hang out with the boys more and played basketball, track. And then once I got into high school was when lacrosse was starting to become popular. I'm dating myself a little bit with that because now girls lacrosse is everywhere. But so my freshman year, I started playing and there were not very many teams around. So we had to travel a lot. We'd have to go up to Cleveland and to New York and stuff. But I loved it. It was a super fun sport that I played from freshman year till my senior year. I was fortunate enough to become captain my senior year. And it was just something that I loved. I loved being around all the girls all the time. And I think it's so good for individuals to be in something, whether it's a sport or a club, because it makes you have to work with the dynamics of other type of people, which I don't think is as common as it used to be. And so, you would just really, I don't know. I feel like I could get along with all the girls on their own different ways and find a connection with each one of them. So it meant a lot.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think I grew up playing sports and in my real estate career, I've always been on a team and, it's just that same dynamic feel, community, whatever you want to call it, that really resonates with me. Right. And so now, Heather, did you end up going to college afterwards? Did you jump into the career field? Like, what was that next step for you?
So my parents actually, I'm the youngest, like I said, they actually had a job opportunity. So they moved to Orlando, Florida the summer before my senior year of high school.
Oh, wow.
So I had to go down there I ended up only going for one quarter. And unfortunately, the school there, it was just very behind the education I had received at Upper Arlington. And so it was going to hurt me college-wise. So my parents, thankfully, supported me when I was able to find a family that would let me move in with them. And at 17, back in the days when you used a trip ticket and you used a payphone, I drove back by myself from Orlando to Columbus, October of 1989, and in my little Honda Prelude, and stayed here. Obviously gained a lot of independence from that point forward, and then decided I also never wanted to leave Columbus, Ohio again. So I went to Ohio State. So I'm a Buckeye. It feels like you didn't leave home since I was from Upper Arlington, but my parents had left and moved 1,000 miles away. So it was kind of like I left home, and I loved it there. I did join a sorority just to kind of help make the college feel smaller. Happy to say that I have 9 still best friends from there. We were actually supposed to fly down to Florida the day Helene hit for our annual girls trip that we've done for 15 years. And we were supposed to be going to Anna Maria Island, which is the one that got hit the hardest. So, but yeah, lots of friendships made. My major was actually fashion merchandising. I wanted to get the limited headquarters, be like a buyer. So that was, I always worked in retail. From like when I was 14, I worked at a bookstore as a straightener and then always had a job in retail. And I just loved the customers. You know, it was just, every day was different. It was just a different vibe. You get to meet different people. Then I worked for Express stores. I did an internship at the end of college at the headquarters of Express, and it just was not the right fit. That kind of corporate, very, very devoted to your job where, you know, at the time, I'm sure things could have changed, but at the time, a lot of the women that had the careers that I wanted were either not married or they were just married to the job.
Sure.
Even though I was not married at the time, I knew that was what I'd want. So I had to make a decision. And in the 8th grade, I shadowed a real estate agent. So I was like, okay, well, I just have this degree now that I have zero use for, because I did not want to work in the retail stores, only because I didn't want to work holidays because my parents were in Florida and I didn't want to be with them. So I was looking in like the old, like Arlington News, the old SNPs that we used to get. And there was like this tiny little ad that was like real estate office needs assistant. And I showed up, and the woman, Joanne Hall, God love her. She was one of my first mentors in this industry at HER on Fishinger Road. She's like, you're way too qualified. She's like, we just like, these people just want you to like get feedback from agents, maybe walk some flyers. And I was like, I don't know what I'll like. I'm not ready to become a real estate agent. I need a job that has some income. So she found 5 agents that were willing to work with me. I actually just saw that Tim Taylor, unfortunately, passed away just recently. He was one of the ones I worked for. Dick Henry, Janine Ryan, Stacy McVeigh, and Dan Crum. I worked for all 5 of them for a little over a year. And then Stacy McVeigh asked if I would just become her buyer's agent, and she'd help me get my license. So I did that and worked for her for a couple of years before I decided to maybe move to Florida, just because I knew once you become a real estate agent, you can't ever leave. Like, it's like once you set your business, you don't want to start over.
Yeah.
So I did move to Boca for a year and wanted to be close to mom and dad, and got back into my degree. I was actually an assistant manager for Saks Fifth Avenue, and just didn't love it down there. The Midwesterners are good people, and just didn't have the same, it just didn't fit. So I came back, and Joanne Hall actually hired me again, and she actually hired me as an employee. HER wanted to do this little beta testing to see about hiring people like on a salary with benefits. Because I told her I couldn't just come back and do commission only. I needed money. So I was going to go work for a new build. I think MI at the time. And she's like, I don't want to lose you. And I was like, well, I don't know what to tell you. So she went to Harley Ruda Jr. at the time, and they did this pilot test with, I don't know how many of us, but so for a year they paid, I had health insurance and income. And so it got me enough that I was able to get my career back up and running.
Was that as a real estate agent then, or as like, okay, so it was more like a salary, kind of like a Redfin now, you know, you have a salaried real estate agent. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm curious, because a lot of times, you know, in real estate's not the first career choice. And it sounds like for you, it kind of was like that aha moment of like, hey, what I went to school for, you know, now seeing it in real time, you know, real life, it's probably not what I thought it was going to be. And that was, for me, that was me too. Like I went to Ohio State and quickly realized that what I went to school for is not what I wanted to do. And I got into real estate right away. Was it simply real estate because of the ad and you had that little experience back in 8th grade, or were you exposed to real estate, like, your family, or was it an interest or something along the ways? Or is it just like that was what was available, right? That was the job that was, available.
It seems to be the divine intervention path that I was on. But the fact that I really was intrigued when I do remember in 8th grade when we did the shadowing, like I really wanted it to be something that I was interested in. And I shadowed Phil Krieger with Coldwell Banker, and we went to the Wednesday MCL meeting. And all the people were there and super friendly, and it did stick with me. And I knew that it was something that would allow me to be around people, which I knew I loved. And I loved helping people. I think that was that's like an integral part of who I am, just to be able to help others. And it just seemed like a good fit. So when that ad came up, I was like, well, this is a perfect way to kind of put my, just test the waters. And then when you work for 5 agents, as to what you were saying, all 5 of them worked 100% differently. There was not one thing other than they all worked for HER that was the same. Yeah. And so it just opened me up to be like, there's such opportunity here to be exactly who you are and be successful. Like there isn't one thing I could say about any one of them that was the same. That is why they were successful. And so I was like, this definitely would be something I would consider doing.
So when you came back from Florida, they kind of created this opportunity for you within HER, right? Pilot program. Sounds like you did it for a year. What year was this? When did you actually get licensed? What year was this? And then, what did that look like as you started real estate? Obviously, your situation was a little bit different because a lot of people are getting in. It's 100% commission based.
Right.
But I'm also curious of, did you have supporters? Did you have doubters in your corner? Where did people in your inner circle stand? Because a lot of times, right, especially, I don't know about you, but for me, I just went to college for 4 years and now I'm going to go 100% commission. And I was 22, right? So it's like, you're walking into this, you got to bank on yourself. I've never had sales experience before. You had retail, experience, but what was kind of that transition process for you, and where did people fall in your inner circle?
So I was 23 when I started as just the assistant. I was licensed in 96. So I was 24 when I got licensed. And then when I came back from Florida and got that job, it was February of 99.
Okay.
And then it was just a 1-year program. And out of, I want to say there was 10 people. I could be totally wrong with these numbers. But there was only like 2 of us that got them out of the red. So needless to say, they didn't follow with it, but thankfully I was one of them. And so then I just went back to being full commission. So it was just 1 year of being employed. And then that program ended and I went back to being it. Regarding the support, obviously my parents weren't super happy because they did help, they paid for my college education. So I think they kind of were like, okay, we just paid 5 years, because that's how long it took me, to go to Ohio State. And now you don't even want to do that. Now you're going to go do something that now you have to go get a license for. And, but I will say my dad sold life insurance his whole life. And out of my 3 siblings, only one of them has had the 9 to 5 job. My 2 of my sisters also were pretty much commission only from the get-go. So I really did always have full support from my family. I mean, again, initially, I think that they were a little disappointed, and, my dad had to help pay some bills for a little longer than I think he anticipated.
Did you, it's interesting because I always ask this question when people that, their family dynamics, right? Was business, like I have a 5-month-old right now, and I joke with people, like my wife and mother-in-law are like, no screen time, right? Like we're going through that phase. And I'm like, he's only allowed watching sports and he watches business sales YouTube videos with me in the morning. So like, I'm the one that's giving him like the screen time on those 2 things. Yeah. But, I didn't grow up in an environment where it was like entrepreneurs, right? Or commission-based income. Was that any of the conversation growing up? Like, was that in an environment that, and maybe you never thought about that, but was that in an environment that maybe has impacted now your real estate career and just how you built your business overall?
That's an interesting dynamic. I haven't really ever thought of it a lot. I was kind of the surprise package for my parents. My oldest sister is 12 years older than me. My brother's 11 years older than me. And then my next sister is 6 years older than me. Okay. So like I showed up when all of them were going to be full-time in school, and my mom was like, woo, I'm done. And then I was like, oh no, you're going to have another kid. And I was the only one born here in Columbus. They were all born in California. So, my dad always inspired me. He was born literally and lived his life in a trailer, had 4 different moms. Like his life and his upbringing, from the life he had to the life I have, it's like it should have been many generations to have gone from that to that. So he was just very self-motivated, and I think that was always instilled in us. And then my mom always did social work, so just compassion, empathy, was something I always saw. My dad did a ton of volunteering as well. So I think just, it's just more about like taking care of people. And, obviously there'd be times that dad was stressed and I wouldn't necessarily know, but I'm sure he had numbers, and it was very stressful when he moved to Florida. My parents actually lived separate for 9 months so that I could finish my junior year of high school, because they didn't want to take me mid-year. So he went my junior year, and my mom stayed here with me for 9 months. And I know that was really hard because, one, I don't think the business was going very well as he had hoped. And 2, my parents have now been together 70 years. They were alone. I mean, 9 months without your spouse would be really hard. And I'm sure I was not making it any easier on my mom, because I was very angry that this was all happening. It was really disrupting my life. And when you're a junior and senior in high school, you kind of think your life is the most important life of anyone's. So I know I wasn't super easy for her at that time. So I do think that it's the independence. I think that we grew up always being very independent, competitive nature, just because of doing sports the whole time. And my oldest sister got into Xerox, working for Xerox right when she graduated college, which I can't remember what year that was, maybe 82, and went down to Houston, and she did incredibly well. And I just remember being like in awe of that. And so I don't know if that also maybe kind of just stuck there with me. Yeah. But yeah.
I want to talk about your real estate career now. You came in, you had 5 basically mentors, right? That you worked for, and you mentioned that they did it 5 different ways. I'm curious, when you actually started to go and build your own real estate business, what did you focus on? How did you focus on building your business, especially in those early years? And then did you have, instant success? Did you have struggles? Kind of what happened that first year, 2 years, 3 years of like you actually building up, the momentum in your business?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was a struggle initially when I went on my own prior to moving to Florida. I think moving to Florida and doing the job where I was 9 to 5 and I was working retail hours and, dealing with the corporate side of things really made me appreciate so much being my own owner of my company. So I feel like them giving me that break that first year was huge, because I don't think I could have done it without it. But it just got me so set on, I did not want to let them down. She was really sticking her neck out. And like I said, she was like my first ever and biggest mentor and kind of mother figure since, I was still pretty young. And I just didn't want to let her down. So I was determined to be successful. So yeah, I mean, there was definitely times, I did have a second job. I was a bartender. There was a bar called Ludlow's that was downtown in the Brewery District. And I would work there Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sometimes I wouldn't get home till 4 a.m. and I'd have to go to an open house the next day. but you just did what you had to do. It was a great way to meet people,
Mhm.
and to have that conversation that I'm in real estate. But, I didn't own my first property until 1999. So, for those first 3 years, I had never bought, sold anything. So, you're very green, but I did have
Yeah.
Stacy, for a while helping me with that.
When you got in, being younger, early 20s, how did you think about building your business? Was it through open houses? Was it door knocking? Because I think maybe those that are younger getting into the business now, one of the things that I struggled with was, you had and I got in 2011. So, coming out of the downturn, right? Hey, this kid's 22 trying to educate people that may have experienced a foreclosure or short sale or a bankruptcy to, hey,
Yeah.
home ownership is still safe, right? If we do
Yeah.
it right. And so sometimes as a younger person getting into the business, there's this obstacle that we have in front of us of like, how do I show a 50-year-old that may have bought 3 houses before to trust me, right, to help them through this process? How did you focus though? Was there a certain way you built your business, or was it just kind of like, I worked whatever came my way and I just hustled?
I think that because this is where I was from, it helped because I was able to get the sphere of influence working immediately and building that by meeting people at the bars and just being super social. But yes, doing open houses. I've never been a door knocker. I know it's works for a lot of people, but it's not my comfort level. So it was just more being as social as possible. Our oldest son his name's Braden. He's 24 and he's actually taken all the classes and wants to join. So it's a very interesting dynamic to like watch him. And then like the nerves I get of like, are you sure this is what you want to, like, are you sure this is what you want to do? And just trying to tell him, some simple things. Like if you just talk to 5 people a day about real estate,
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it's the barista that you're getting your coffee from, the person grooming your dog, like it just start having those conversations and then it becomes more natural anyway. And then, I truly do think that if you lead from the heart and you truly have a heart to serve others, that comes off. And I think that, that is something that has always been important to me for all of the people I work with to know, like they do kind of become almost like family.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that's what I always tell. New agents, because that's kind of more my passion, right? And in school we're always like, it's this fear of like everyone's going to sue you, right? And even like right now with like buyer agreements and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, look, your job is to turn a client into a friend. Friends don't sue friends,
absolutely.
right? So if you can do that, then you'll be fine. But I love always when I'm speaking and interviewing agents, I always love connecting the dots, and I feel that you coming up in the retail space and you specifically saying you built your business by being more social, open houses, talking to people, strangers at the bar while bartending, like all that is the retail environment, right? Like you had all that
Absolutely.
training,
Yeah.
growing up. And so I always love when I'm able to connect the dots of real estate agents with what's happened previously in different careers or life or whatever, because that is probably the most natural setting for you.
It is. And I'll tell you, John, to be honest with you, I hired a coach last month because my business has just gradually started to lower. And obviously, 2020, you weren't around people as much. 2020 was my best year in the business. And then it's just kind of declined. And I started like really having to like take a look because my business has always been pretty organic. I don't do a ton of advertisements. I've just kind of worked with the people I care about, talk to them. And it just has always given me a very good, comfortable business. But it just felt like I wasn't getting that as much as I was. And then now I'm having my son join me. And I was like, what is it? And I realized, so we have 3 boys. Braden's 24, Tanner's 20, and Beckett's 16. And, when they were all like at the elementary and middle school and all in activities, I'm constantly around the public. And that's, like you said, that is my comfort level is just being around people and talking. And then people will be like, oh, Heather, I saw that house came on the market. What do you think about that? Just organic conversations every day. Having those 5 conversations a day was a piece of cake. I don't have that anymore. I don't really have my son that's 16, he's not playing a sport. So it's not like I'm going and having those interactions. So that's one thing. And one thing I've always told my son that's getting in the business, like, you will never know everything. This business, don't ever think there's going to be a day where it's like, oh my God, I finally know everything. Never going to happen in real estate. There will always be something new that comes up and you're just like, I had no idea. And you have to kind of reinvent yourself. You can't just kind of hang on the fact like, well, I've been licensed for 28 years. I have great experience. It's like, people will forget you. As great as you were, as awesome as the time came when you helped them and went above and beyond, and so you really have to make sure that you're constantly reevaluating your business. And it's hard sometimes,
Yeah.
The fact that I'm just hiring a coach after 28 years, my dad did kind of coach me I hired him because he was a business coach for insurance agents. And I'm like, why won't you do that for me? Like, all your people are super successful. So that was fun because I literally would call and say, I need to talk to coach. Or if I was having a bad day, I'd say, I need to talk to dad. Like, I don't need the lecture right now. I just need somebody that will listen to me cry. So I had that, and that was awesome. And so, I made the decision that it's time to do that again and just kind of reevaluate everything. And I think that's also important in this industry, is to be willing to, you really have to, if you're going to be somebody that owns your own company, you got to be able to look hard at yourself and see where you're not doing great and be willing to make adjustments in that area.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, spot on. I think ego is one of the things in our industry that limits or eliminates a lot of agents. The ego will not allow them to do certain things just because they're just stuck on doing it that way.
Yeah.
And like I bring it up all the time. Like when I got into the business with Ryan, we did a lot of REOs and foreclosures because that's what the market was. Right. And then we did internet leads and buyer leads and now it's buyers and sellers. And so like it morphs and changes with time as the market morphs and change. I'm curious, Heather, were you, 99, you go through the recession, right? Survive that, obviously, in the real estate sense of business. Were you always an individual agent? Were you ever on a team? Did you ever build a team? I know you have a team now, right? But what kind of has that real estate journey looked like for you over the years?
So when I met my husband, Colby, he was actually a mortgage lender. So that was something that was really nice because, if people liked me and trusted me, a lot of times they would be like, oh, well, let's just use your husband to do our loan. So it was really nice. But then once things started getting really busy, like 04 was a really busy year and kind of kept going. He ended up getting licensed in 08.
Okay.
But then the world changed quite a bit. And so we own rental properties. We bought them back in 99, 2000. So he kind of took that time to renovate most of them and kind of get them up while the market was kind of softer and he couldn't do as much. But then he fully joined me. Basically, we left HER in 2011 and switched over to the Keller Williams Classic Properties office. And that was when I think we started to excel. I loved HER, but I think the education and everything I've gotten at Keller Williams has just been something I needed, something I took full advantage of. And so then our business started to really start taking off again, just from having all of that kind of educational support that we were able to get.
And it's just been you two, right?
It has.
Been, okay.
It's just been us two. We have a transaction coordinator, Kim, who helps us just transaction to transaction. And then, our son should be joining us here. He just has to pass those 2 fun tests that I would fail. I tell him that all the time. I'm like, I promise you I would fail those tests because it really has nothing to do with your success of a real estate agent as if you can pass those tests. I mean, So we're growing a little bit here soon.
Awesome. I want to kind of transition to like future pacing of where you kind of want to get to within the business. What's a goal of yours over the next 12 months in real estate?
So I want us to get back to numbers we were at in 2020 as soon as next year. I've really, taken the coaching full speed ahead, doing the business planning classes. Keller Williams has like software called Command, and there's so many pieces and parts to it. And I kind of just was, like you said before, that sometimes you can kind of just get in your habits and just kind of be like, I don't want to learn how to do these things. There's something that sticks to my mind so well. Back in '99, when the internet was coming out, I was at an office meeting and they were talking about, okay, everybody, things are going to really change. Like, we're not going to be getting these books anymore every Friday that have all of the listings in them, and everything's going to be available for everyone on the internet. And this woman, Teresa Ferris, God rest her soul, was like, well, what the hell's the internet anyway? Is it really going to stick around? And I just remember, and here I am, like a young pup, and I'm like, oh, for heaven's sakes, like, seriously, like, yes, it's going to be around. And now I catch myself at times when people are like, you really should do a video. I'm like, I am never doing a video. I'm like, don't be like Teresa Ferris was in that meeting. And so that's my catch to myself when I'm like too scared to do anything. Like your invitation, when you reached out about this, that, honest to God, John, if you would have asked me like 2 months ago, I would have been like, no, thanks. But I'm like, you got to start doing things that make you a little bit uncomfortable and just experiencing it,
Yeah.
So I mean, I have pretty big goals for us next year. But it's really is getting back to the basics. It's not like I'm going to all of a sudden go door knocking and doing the things I don't love.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to have to expand myself, a little bit in regards to all the comfort levels I've made for myself, which is fine. That's how we become better people. And, one of the first things Gary Keller always says is to get your calendar and fill it out and put all your times out that you're going to be off first. And he has a rule of thumb, which there's numbers to it. Can't remember it, but basically every week you should take 1 day off. Every month you should have a 3-day weekend. Every quarter you should have a 7-day vacation. Now that sounds like a ton. I've never probably done that in my life. But if you actually calculate that out of 365, it's still more than the person that's working 40 days a week. It's still more hours than that. So I'm trying to do that. Like, I've never taken a day. Like, you just don't take a day off. It's like, well, I'm just going to do some things, but it really is important mentally to do that. So I'm really going to work harder. Obviously if our son joins us, that will help tremendously. Cause if Colby and I decide to go away, or even if it's to a work conference, I'm still staying 100% in my brain here to focus on business. So it would be nice to be able, I mean, I'm sure you've done it long enough. Now you have a baby. You don't leave this business. When you go on vacation, you tell every one of your clients, oh, you can call anytime. It's fine, which it is. And it always has been. But my gosh, would it be nice to go on a vacation and be like, you don't have to think about work for 7 days? Like, I don't even know what I can't even fathom what that would feel like. It'd be crazy.
Yeah. It's one of those things it's when I talk to agents, the freedom and flexibility is one of the things that creates a lot of anxiety in our business.
Yeah.
And it's self-inflicted because and part of it's human nature, right? As a business owner, right? It's just, you feel like if you're not in your business is going to crumble, right? But we know that it's really not going to crumble, but we just tell ourselves it is going to crumble. But it's interesting that you bring up that lesson that you learned, years ago with the other agent. And we have a lot of those agents right now with the change that happened, 2 months ago. Right. And so it's like fighting, that, hey, this is just the new way of doing real estate. You can either get on board and pivot with it, or you may be struggling and being left behind, because this is the way, right? This is the new way.
Yes.
So that's a great
lesson. Somebody said something to me about the whole new thing. You can strive and survive, or you can cry and die. So, it is, and no one likes change. No industry likes to go through the kind of changes. And I think that the sad thing about what's happening right now is more for the public. There's just so much miscommunication that's going on out there. And I think that's where it's our duty as, professional real estate agents to make sure that, talk about it. Don't let it be that elephant in a room. Have conversations. This is supposed to be giving more transparency to the buyers. I mean, I feel like open houses, these buyers come in so timid. Like they just are like, I have no idea if I should talk to you, if I should not talk to you. Like, do I have to pay you? And it's just like, it's going to be okay. Like, I am still the same person. I'm here to take care of you. We're going to get through this. And, it's like, there's only been a couple little changes, but it feels like the world has changed. And there's definitely people that are wanting to just fight it. And it's like, there's nothing to fight.
Yeah. Yeah. Heather, what's a 5-year goal for you?
Wow. 5 years. I used to want a second home in Siesta Key, and then Milton hit it first last night, and I'm like, maybe that's not what I want. But I also used to think that I definitely want to retire, once I'm like, I don't know, I'm 52 right now, like maybe 10 years from now. But I ran into Jane Jones on spring break in Siesta Key 2 years ago, I think, and she was out walking the beach, and I was like, Jane, you're still at it. God love you. And she's like, why would I quit? Like, I enjoy it. And so that kind of gave me like, why would I? Like, what would I do? I mean, I'm starting to play pickleball, but like, do I just want to do that my whole life? Like, I'm not sure I'm ready for that. So, I think that it evolves, but if I were to decide right now, 5 years from now, I hope that I am able to continue to help people in all assets of real estate. We own rental properties. We helped our son buy a house last year. I just think that there's so much that can come from knowledge of real estate. Everyone says you have to have 7 passive incomes. Yeah. Like real estate can be that, like at least 4 of those for people fairly easily. And just to kind of get out there and let people know that. And it's crazy. Like people will meet with financial planners every year, yet they have no idea what their asset is worth in their home. And it's like, I want to be able to bring value. I know that word's been used a lot, like with the whole new NIR thing, but I just think that we do offer so much for the people. We really can. I mean, the amount of people that call me when their taxes go up and ask me if I can help them get that lowered. And, when they are like, oh, well, this person said it's going to be $15,000 to replace my furnace. I'm like, well, if you call this person, it's going to be $7,000, to just be there for your neighbor. And I think that that's something that we're seeing with all that's happening in North Carolina and Tennessee. And, we need to be there for our neighbors in whatever capacity that is. So, I will definitely still be selling real estate. Hopefully I'll at least have one of my 3 sons working alongside and my husband still working alongside, and that we have a successful career, but that we are enjoying life just as much and enjoying helping others.
Love it. What's the legacy goal for you?
The legacy goal would be, one, just the way that I've always looked at my parents. Again, they're both still alive at 90 and 87, still married. And, I posted my dad's 90th birthday, and I think we got 220 people that are just like, oh my God, he's such a great man. And so, I mean, my legacy is going to be more about, how did I make people feel when I was around them? Like, is it going to be one of those things like, man, I loved when Heather was around. She always made me feel good. She always, so I would hope, and my kids obviously are our life, that we just leave them maybe with a business that can be something that they continue to grow on. That would be awesome. But more so to just be good people that really like look at human beings as creatures that are blessings, and just to be the best version of yourself all the time, and to always just strive to be the best version of yourself.
I love that. Last question for you.
Okay.
One piece of advice that you would give the audience, maybe that you received, maybe that if an agent comes to you and says, hey, Heather, give me that one thing that I need in real estate, what would that be?
The one thing for real estate, I think, goes along the lines of what I said. If you really actually are doing it because you care about the people you're doing it for, it's going to come pretty naturally. And if you just get out there and have those 5 conversations a day and just constantly be filling yourself up with that knowledge. But if you're always doing the best for them, like it's not about it being a closing. It's not about it ever being a commission. It's about what can you do for that person? Like this is such a big deal. Where they live is such a big deal. Where they're going to, if they have children, where they're going to go to school, if they go to churches, if they, all these things that impact your life, all of us, each one of us, where we live is such an important part of that. And that's something we get to be part of. Like looking at the big picture of it and what opportunities we have, I think would be huge. And then on a marriage note, for any of those married, my dad, one of the rules when he was my coach was, okay, I'll be your coach, but you have to follow all my rules. And one of his rules has always been, and he's always done with my mom, is you have to go on one date night a week. It doesn't matter if you just go get coffee. Doesn't matter what you do. No work talk, no kid talk. I mean, obviously there's but be on a date. And I will say my husband and I just celebrated 24 years on Monday.
That's awesome.
And my parents are about to celebrate their 68th. It's a very valuable tool in life, because if you're happy, home life makes a lot more happy work life as well.
Congratulations on your anniversary.
Thanks, John. I appreciate that.
That's awesome. And it's so true. It's we're all guilty of it, right? Like we just don't shut off work, or the majority of us don't. And I think the one thing that isn't spoken about a lot in our industry is whether it's spousal support, significant other support, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, or even your inner circle support, right? That's why I always ask the question, did you have believers or doubters? Because, real estate and being an entrepreneur and a business owner can be a lonely road, especially if, your inner circle is not even used to that type of lifestyle or business, or, paying, how you make your income and all of those things. So it's so true. And I appreciate you sharing that. And obviously,
absolutely,
it's been a secret to your guys' success. So,
well, yes. And for you with the 5-month-old, it's easy to just push off dates because it's like, we're tired, we have a baby, we don't really want to get a babysitter, but I'm telling you, even if you just go for 2 hours, it really, after having 3 kids, it was a game changer for sure.
Yeah, I definitely have to get better at that. I will admit that. But okay, Heather, thanks so much for your time today. Those that are watching, on YouTube or watching the video version of this, her phone number is down below. If you guys are, local to the Columbus area, Upper Arlington, if you're a buyer, seller, and you connected with her story, please reach out to her. Her phone number is listed down below. If you're a real estate agent and you just want to pick her brain, ask her questions, get advice, feel free to reach out to her. But Heather, for those that are listening in, on the podcast audio version, what is the best way for someone to connect with you about real estate?
They can call my direct cell phone number. It's really my phone number. You can text it or call it. It's 614-580-8282, which it does stand for UAUA, which made it kind of easy, but 614-580-8282.
Heather, thanks so much again. If I can, do anything for you and your business, or maybe we can just connect and grab a coffee sometime. I'd love to help you out any way that I can.
I appreciate it, John. This was a lot of fun. Thanks for the invite.
Of course. Thanks so much. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye.